Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, I'll be breaking down the threat of an ice storm across parts of the United States tomorrow through Monday, and this will bring the risk for travel impacts in addition to some power outages. We'll also be watching for some snow with this system, heavy rain that'll lead to some flooding, and perhaps even some isolated severe weather, and as well as a big temperature flop. We're going to go from very cold weather to very warm weather in parts of the United States. I'll be giving you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, and let's begin first with what's happening across the United States today, and we'll begin with the East Coast. And this is an area that hasn't really been that active over the last 24 hours. More than anything, we've just seen a huge plume of Arctic air stretching down from the Midwest back down in the Southeast, and this has allowed for a lot of colder air to really sink into many areas in the Southeast and as well as the East Coast. And so we've had a lot of colder weather today. If you've been outdoors, you might need a jacket like I have on right now. It's been obviously very cold down there, and back even into the north and east, back over closer to New England, we also have a little bit of some snow activity, some light snow flurries, but a lot of this is mostly just cloud cover, which is leading to it feeling even colder because we don't have any sunshine out there. So overall, again, the weather pretty cold right now in the Southeast, but I do have some good news for you. That will not last very long. We're going to go right back to warmer weather by Monday and Tuesday. Once we get a strong southerly wind, a ridge will start dominating on the eastern tier of the United States. A low pressure system from the Pacific Ocean will move into the southwest United States, and that'll allow for a strong southerly wind leading to warmer weather, and as well as some drier weather even for parts of the East Coast and perhaps even the southeast United States. Now, I just mentioned we have a lot of activity over here on the western tier of the United States. That is all due to a low pressure system, and we are actually going to be seeing those impacts here across the Great Plains, the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the East Coast as we go into Monday into Tuesday. That low pressure system will bring the threat of some ice as we go into tomorrow and as well as on Monday across parts of the southern and central plains, back into the Midwest, and as well as even the Ohio Valley. So Indiana and Ohio, be mindful of that. And again, we're going to do a full breakdown on that for you here in just a couple of minutes. But before we do that full breakdown, I do want to give you a little bit of some information about this weather pattern that we're going to be experiencing here across the United States over the next 7 days, because things are going to be way different than what we've seen for the past couple of weeks. And we're going to look at the jet stream to give you an idea of what this weather pattern is actually going to be looking like, and then I'll show you the temperature anomalies to give you an idea of what the temperatures will be here across the United States over the course of the next 7 days. So right now we have that huge Arctic air mass that's moving through the eastern tier of the United States. The low pressure system is actually more offshore. It's closer to Nova Scotia, but we are seeing some of those impacts still with that colder air coming in from the backside of that low pressure system. But obviously that Arctic air will be moving out as we go into early next week. The reason why is because we have a high pressure system that'll be moving into parts of the eastern tier of the United States. Notice that ridge axis going from Texas back all the way off to the north and west, and this ridge will move off to the east as we go into the later half of the weekend. So notice this as we go into Monday, that ridge will actually become a bit more apparent back over on the East Coast. It won't be the most impressive ridge you've ever seen, but it definitely will be impactful because we're gonna have two different low pressure systems go through the United States as we go into the early to midweek. Our first one is going to move across areas in the southern and central plains. This one will be responsible for the potential for ice accumulation and as well as snow, and along with heavy rainfall that could lead to some isolated flooding. And then the second one that's going to be back down here in the southwest United States, this one will be a bit more capable of severe weather along with some showers and storms, and we might even see a little bit of winter precipitation out of that one. And then once we go into Wednesday into Thursday, notice that ridging, or that troughing feature, excuse me, will be dominating in the southern and central United States. And notice the jet stream right here, strong southerly and southwesterly flow. This might promote a low-end threat for severe weather in the Dixie Alley and the lower Mississippi Valley by Wednesday and Thursday, but the exact details of that are still quite unknown. I don't foresee a severe weather outbreak by any means, but I think we'll at least look at a little bit of severe weather. And after Thursday, things do become a little bit more uncertain, but that low pressure system might be sitting around for a little while, so definitely be something to watch for over the next several days. Now, in terms of the temperatures across the United States, this is the temperature anomalies. It gives us an idea of above and below average temperatures. Notice this is your Arctic air mass that is all below average temperatures. On the flip side of things, we have above average temperatures for much of the northern plains back into Canada. Notice this as we go into Monday into Tuesday, we are going to have a lot warmer weather across much of the United States. Almost the entire country will be dealing with above average temperatures. This is by Wednesday into Thursday. We actually could be talking about record-breaking temperatures back up in the northeast United States, not because of cold weather, instead because of warmer weather. So that'll be something to watch for as we get closer to Wednesday into Thursday. And by the way, way, I don't foresee this leaving anytime soon, primarily for the northern tier of the United States. Back down near the Gulf Coast and in the southern plains, I think we'll stay a bit on the more average side when it comes to the temperatures for at least the next 5 to 7 days. Now let's talk more about this winter storm that'll be impacting the United States over the next 72 hours. And these are the watches and warnings that we have in effect right now as I'm recording this forecast. We have winter storm watches in effect for northwest Arkansas back through eastern Oklahoma. I do expect a lot of winter weather advisories across much of this circled area that I have. So anywhere from North Texas back into parts of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. But again, not everybody will be under winter weather advisories, but I think the majority of this area will be. And that's mainly for the fact that we'll be seeing ice accumulation and perhaps a little bit of snow as well in a few of those areas. There may be a couple of ice storm warnings, but I don't think this ice storm is going to be a widespread threat because by definition, an ice storm is greater than a quarter of an inch of ice. Not everybody will be seeing that much ice, but a lot of people will at least be seeing a glaze of ice. And I'll be discussing how much ice we're actually talking about here in just a second. This is the future radar here for tomorrow. We'll be looking at some moisture coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. This will allow for some freezing rain to develop from North Texas back into Oklahoma and western Arkansas tomorrow evening. So the ice will begin to accumulate then. Once we go into the overnight hours, that freezing rain will start to expand all the way from basically North Texas near the Red River all the way back into central Illinois by Monday morning. And we're going to be watching for ice accumulation. But here's the key thing with this event. We are going to see ice accumulation through Monday morning for areas like Oklahoma, as well as Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas, and as well as North Texas. But a lot of this will turn into a straight up cold rain as we go into Monday afternoon. And that means any ice that does accumulate should melt off as we go into late Monday. If it doesn't, it will melt by Tuesday. But notice this, for those in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, we'll be talking about at least some freezing rain as we go into Tuesday morning, and that will lead to some ice accumulation there before it melts off. And we'll also be watching for light to moderate snow from Iowa back into the Midwest and as well as back through the Northeast. That could lead to a few inches of snow as well. So let's break this down more in detail. So again, this is what we're looking at tomorrow morning. Pretty dry overall across the southern plains. Freezing rain will start to pick up a little bit, but it's going to remain pretty isolated as we get closer to 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. Once we get closer to around midnight, light freezing rain will start to pick up more. We might even see some moderate to heavy freezing rain, and if we do, that'll accumulate ice much faster. Notice though, a lot of this is just going to be a straight up cold rain. It's going to be a very close call if you're in DFW whether we do see freezing rain or rain. Either way, any ice that does accumulate will only be on the ground through about Monday morning. Notice this as we get closer to about 6 in the morning. Freezing rain will start to pick up in intensity in southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, and eastern Oklahoma, and we'll still be looking at some light freezing drizzle across parts of central Oklahoma through the morning, and eventually by the afternoon, Oklahoma, Texas, and as well as most of Arkansas will go into straight up cold rain across those areas. So the ice accumulation will be basically over a 12-hour period or so, maybe 18 hours at most. Now, in terms of ice accumulation, this is the current estimate here from the HRR model. Pretty accurate in my opinion for what I'm thinking that we'll see. So again, most areas between central Oklahoma back into parts of North Texas will see anywhere from a glaze of ice all the way up to a 1/10 of an inch of ice, but there will be a few isolated locations that pick up closer to a 1/4 of an inch of ice. Back over in northwest Arkansas and southern Missouri, this is the area that I have a bit more concern that we will see the potential for an ice storm. Right now there are winter storm watches, but I'm not ruling out that a couple of those get flipped over to an ice storm warning, mainly due to the fact there will be some isolated locations getting closer to a 1/4 of an inch of ice. We might even have a few locations exceeding that total in those areas. So definitely gonna be something to watch for, and that does mean that there will be travel impacts Monday in addition to having some isolated power outages. Now back over here to the north and east for the Midwest, we'll be looking at some light snow, bit of a mixture across areas like Chicago Monday morning, translating into a bit more of a freezing rain situation going into Monday afternoon and evening. This will quickly accumulate. So if you're near Chicago, back into Indiana and Ohio and southern Michigan, these will be the areas to watch for freezing rain. Once we go into Tuesday morning though, most of this will transition back into a cold rain. So most of this activity again will be Monday into Tuesday morning for those in the Midwest. In terms of ice accumulation, I'm expecting really a glazing of ice for most of these areas, but there will be some areas across areas like Illinois, Indiana, central and northern Ohio, and back through southern Michigan that will get closer to a 1/10 of an inch of ice, but I am not foreseeing an ice storm at this point for most of these areas. But make sure you subscribe to the channel. We will be keeping you updated with the latest information as this event begins to ramp up. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and like the video.